Alright, this is part 3 of a book review written by Minds.com guy, Morphing Reality, Patrick Zelinsky. I should probably turn on this light. Okay, we're talking about the Treaty of Versailles, World War I. The fallacy claimed on page 16 that the Treaty of Versailles caused World War II. This is from the book that Morphing Reality wrote. Had the Versailles Treaty been less harsh on Germany, Hitler would never rise to power, and the Second World War would have been avoided. No, I don't think so, because Hitler rose to power, number one, through the democratic process for economic reasons, which you do mention later here in a bit, and also it had just been humiliated. The Second Reich, the Kaiser was overthrown. They were humiliated. Trinity, thank you. The stringent terms of the treaty turned Germany from an almost self-sufficient country into one that was dependent on imports. The burdens of Germany were often the same burdens faced by Europe and the rest of the world. No, that's not correct. Germany was crushed. France wasn't under the Treaty of Versailles. The English they were not under the Treaty of Versailles. Germany they were crushed, not so much militarily because of their colonies in Africa, which you touch upon here in a bit. But the rest of the world was doing a whole lot better. I mean, I think 5 million people in Germany starved because of the British blockade toward the end of World War I. Yet, you write, most countries, even when the Great Depression hit, you wrote, most countries did not turn to the same kind of dictatorship that plagued Germany. Well, number one, Germany historically has always been autocratic. Prussia created Germany, Otto von Bismarck and all that, the Franco-Prussian War in 1870, 1871. That was the First Reich. And then, I lost my train of thought. They were always authoritative. They did not know democracy. There's a split in Europe. Western Europe, France and West, they were introduced and adopted more liberal leanings during the Middle Ages due to the Enlightenment and all that stuff than in Germany, which is more of a backwater. Talking about how most countries do not turn on the type of dictatorship that plagued Germany, look at what's happening right now in Europe with the migrant crisis. Look at what's happening politically over there. Far-right movements, neo-Nazi-esque related movements are being voted into power. And that's exactly what happened with the Nazi Party. They were slowly, over about a decade, voted more and more in the parliament, the chancellery, whatever they call it, in the Reichstag. You write, here are the major components. This is regarding the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was to give up all of its overseas colonies, which were in Africa mostly, although I believe they had one in Asia, which was weird. Some territory was to be ceded to Poland, a nation that regained statehood after 200 years of foreign occupation. France regained the Alsace-Lorraine. That's what the Prussian-led Franco-Prussian War captured. It was very embarrassing to France. They have quite a bad history, as you probably already know. The German Army, Navy, Air Force, and war-related industry was severely reduced. They were only allowed to have a standing army of, I believe, 100,000. Air stuff, especially naval things like battleships, they weren't allowed to have them. There were strict numbers on how many they could have compared to the people around them. Now we're getting back to balance of power politics, balance of power notions. And then the last one, so Germany was ordered to pay reparations of 132 billion marks, which would be $33 billion in U.S. currency today. How are they going to do that? If 5 million people just starved, they have wheelbarrows of cash to go buy a loaf of bread. Maybe there's mold on it. They still have to eat it. He wrote here on page 18 to end this piece. Now, what can be contrasted with this treaty to help determine its harshness? I really don't know what you mean by that. Its harshness was the liberal West, epitomized by France and Germany, wanted to impose their liberal notions on Germany. England and France were liberal. Germany, going east, Prussia and all that were authoritative. It was the German Empire. There's a reason why they called it the German Empire. So, to say that, if anything, winning World War I, had Germany won World War I, things would have been better, ultimately, if a settled truce could have been reached. People in Germany were shocked after World War I because, as I said, their overseas colonies in Africa, they had, I believe, 300,000 troops that had not been fighting for the most part. They're fully equipped, they looked real nice, and they came home to Germany and they did a parade through Berlin. And the people that were gathered on the streets were like, what in the world? These guys are, how did we lose? Look at this massive army. How did we lose this war? So you have the population itself asking questions like that. And you have to take that into account. How did we lose this war? And that's when the conspiracy started. The Jews made us lose the war. The communists made us lose the war. The anarchists made us lose the war. And Antifa, these movements, Antifa, that traces back into Europe, like in the 1930s. I mean, just like now here in America under Trump, back then you had the communists, you had the anarchists fighting each other with the fascists. World War I most certainly caused World War II. But you also have to focus on the actor, Hitler himself. And you touch upon this. The egocentric leader with high charisma and energy. Hitler was an evil dude, I would say. I don't want to judge so that I don't be judged, but I think that's pretty much agreed upon. Had Hitler not been the one to lead the Nazi Party and seize power in 1933, 1934, officially becoming a dictatorship, the dictator, in that scenario, things would have been a lot different. Now, right now, we have three types of scenarios like that. We have Putin in Russia. Putin's been untested for the most part. We have Xi Jinping in China, untested for the most part. And you have us, United States, with freaking Trump in power. And he's busting on these people. So we'll see what the next war brings. But again, I want to give a shout. Get this book, man. It's really good. Morphing Reality, man. I'm real impressed. Even Missy's impressed. She's watching the front yard. Make sure nobody comes up on our shit. Alright, I'll talk to you soon, man. Part 4 is coming.